Carl, good morning.
Hey Steve, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. How you been?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Now, the reason why we've chose you is because you've actually got a great little story. It's very inspirational, yeah. But I'm not sure whether many people know what you're about. Just tell us, yeah. What titles do you hold?
Well, as a fighter, I was a former Midlands area champion, former British Masters champion, 2 times British title challenger, and a former WBF world champion.
That's a bit greedy with all the titles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not too bad.
You know what I mean? But you've basically done that on your own.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you're a special type of a person. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, obviously as a kid, boxing was something I always seemed like I wanted to do. My mum and my stepfather used to take me down the local working men's club, Newark Working Men's Club. And when I was 9 years old, Barry McGugan was on the screen fighting Pedrosa for the world title, and I just looked up in the back room, the snooker room at the Working Men's Club, and I was just mesmerised by this fight. I mean, apparently it was the biggest TV audience ever, 16 million tuned in to watch it, and I was just watching this fight, and I was just thinking, God, I'd love to be a boxer one day. And anyway, I got speaking to my stepfather, and he was good friends with Dick Dorman, who owned the trainer at the amateur boxing club. At the time it was called Boulderton ABC at the Grove Sports Centre on Newark, in Newark, Boulderton. And anyway, he spoke to Dick, and he said, look, my stepson really into boxing, he'd love to go down. I was 9 years old, and I went down there, and I did really well. Really took to it, but he said to me, look Carl, he said, unfortunately we can't take you in till you're 11 because that's when you can't start fighting, but we'll let you come tonight, just see what it was all about. And then I went back when I was 12 years old. I just went back there with 2 lads from school, but it'd moved premises now it was on the RHP Elm Avenue. They'd called the club RHP ABC now, and yeah, I went down there and with 2 friends from school, and I stuck to it ever since, and then they just disappeared after one session. So yeah, it was great.
Why do you think you stuck to it?
I just feel like it was something I always wanted to do. I'm a self-driven person, and I've never had nobody behind me. I've never had no one pushing me to the gym. I was going on my bike in the rain and the snow, all sorts of weather on me, and I was either running there. It was a couple of miles away from where I lived, and it was just something that I did. And I always found that there was a lot of boxers who had parents behind them who was pushing them and that, and they never seemed to want to achieve what I did because there was always, I don't know, there was being forced to go, whereas I never. It was just something I always wanted to do.
What about your background? You know, growing up as a kid, tell us about that, because you know, to get that type of spirit, you know, to want to achieve, where's it all come from?
I don't know really. I just feel like I'm a bit of a one-off, to be honest. I mean, I can remember being like 11 years old and walking around town, and I just sort of like, I can remember just asking a lady on the market, oh, have you got any jobs going? And she said, yeah. She took me on, and from 11 years old I was earning my own money. I was working on the market, setting up and packing away, and then I was going boxing, and it was just something that I just feel like I've just been a person that's always wanted to do everything himself.
What was you selling on the market?
Socks, yeah, sock store, yeah, back in the day.
You selling socks?
Yeah, Josie, her name was, lovely woman. I've not seen her for years, but I'm hoping she's okay, yeah.
So, just between us, did you ever put the socks over the hands?
No, I don't think so, but it was cold sometimes, really cold, but yeah, so I mean, that's like something I did. I was always earn my own money. My parents never had a lot really. I had it quite tough growing up, and they did the best for me. You know,
what did mum and dad do?
Well, my mum and dad split up when I was like 7 properly, and then we lived in Clifton Lane in a council house at the time, and then my mum got my stepdad Woody, and he worked on the power stations. He earned good money, but it was only basically like 6 months of the year. My mum and stepdad both liked to drink, and I saw a lot of things growing up, you know what I mean, that other children want to see, and it just made me more determined in life, and I feel like that's where it benefited from it.
So it's interesting that you mentioned the fact that, you know, kids have actually seen things that perhaps they shouldn't see, yeah? But do you think that attributed then, to becoming a boxer to maybe to protect yourself or protect others? What? How do you see it?
Yeah, I don't know really. I mean, it was something that, I don't know, I was always a bit of a lad at school and a nice lad, and I got on with everybody. I was a popular kid, but a bit of a naughty boy at times. Never really achieved anything at school. I always had him from 11 years old, and people used to say, what are you going to do when you grow up? And I used to say, I'm going to be a professional boxer. And I was a little weedy kid, to be honest with you, and they used to look at me and thinking, nah mate, you're living in a dream world. But I was determined to do it, and I did it. I mean, I was 19 years old when I turned professional. I was the youngest professional in the country. And yeah, I mean, like you say, I went on to achieve quite a lot.
So, with this drive that you've got within you, yeah, what was it like? First professional fight?
Yeah, I mean, if we go back a bit to my amateur days, I mean, obviously I was always naturally talented, but I lacked a bit of confidence, and I don't think it was confidence in my ability. It was more confidence that I had negative people around me. I never really had anybody giving me a pat on the back and saying, "Oh, well done, Carl, you're doing great." It was I always felt like I was being pulled down, whether it was jealousy or just, I don't know, or my face didn't fit sometimes, I don't know, but that made me more determined, to be honest. And then I got to 15 years old and I went in the Junior ABA Championships, and the first round of it was a knots and links stage, and I got there and there was 4 boxers waiting in my category, and only one of us could go through to the next round. Nowadays, obviously, they won't let you box twice in one day. You'll have to go through and box them again in the next stage. But there was only one that could go through that night. So I boxed twice in one night, and I beat both kids and got through to the national, to the Midland finals. And it was sort of like from there on, that's when my boxing kicked in. My confidence just grew really high. I got to went right through to the national finals, which was a massive thing. No one had ever achieved it in Newark before. At Bethnal Green, York Hall, we took a minibus down there, and great times. And and then I got picked for Young England, and my just confidence went really high from there, and that's when it started kicking in for me. And then I got to like 19 years old. I'd had 70 amateur fights, and I was at the stage where I went a bit flat in the amateurs. I was boxing good lads and having hard fights all the time. And then I was seeing lads that I'd already beaten, that already could turn professional. I was thinking, if they can do it, I can do it, even though they was a bit older than me and that. So I just, same again, did it all myself. Approached John Ashton from Mansfield, who was a local promoter, who was a good fighter in his day as well. I mean, he was a British Commonwealth European title challenger. Had a lot of respect for John. We sat down and we did a deal. I never told anybody, kept it under wraps. Never really got any publicity from it because that was just how it was. And then when it did come out and people said, "Oh, you've turned professional," and that, I mean, I was always a popular kid and used to sell bundles of tickets. And then it just went from there, really.
Do you think then, looking back at your life, you may have a few regrets?
Yeah, I've got a few regrets. I maybe should have, got out of Newark when I was flying out with the boxing, and probably looked for a top class trainer, because I really wasn't being shown anything or taught anything. I was just more fitness training and just getting by on ability, natural ability really. And I had a good work ethic and trained really hard, but I've never really had anybody who's shown me much technique or anything, so that was one thing that I could have done. But saying that, I met a guy from Sheffield called Howard Rainey, who he taught me more than probably anybody has in the boxing game. I was there with like Clinton Woods, Terry Dunstan, some good fighters, and I looked up to them, and that was the first time really that I'd ever have anybody that I could like gel off, if you know what I mean. It was always me that was bringing other fighters on, so that's what I used to think. So yeah, I've got a few regrets, but on the whole, what I've achieved, I mean, I've got to be proud of myself.
Oh, wait, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
I mean, you've come from Nothing. If you inverted comma, if you want to say that. I mean, you know, you've come through as a young lad. You've seen it all yourself, and you've got that drive and everything else. Respect. Who have you got the respect for?
You know what? It's funny, really. I mean, obviously, I respect a lot of people in the boxing game, but I'm not really like that. I don't really look up to anybody or respect anyone because I feel like I've not had much help, and that's not because it's just that I've not needed it or I've not wanted it. It's my own fault, really. I mean, to this day, and now I'm a professional manager, trainer and promoter, and it's just, I do everything on my own. I mean, obviously on the night I have people helping me on my shows and what have you, but I mean, I'm promoting a show where I'm actually doing corners, and instead of there being in a suit, like most people, you know, most promoters ringside, I'm there in a tracksuit, in the change room, bandaging his hands, doing corners, doing cuts, do everything. I sort all the money out myself, I book everything. It's crazy, really, but it's something that I just do it, and I just keep doing it and keep doing it as long as I can.
Do you think you're a bit of a control freak then?
I like things done my way, and I feel, and the reason for this as well is I do feel like I've been let down a lot in my life. I feel like when I've actually had people involved, they've not been up to scratch, or they've let me down, or not turned up, or so. You know what? I just think I'll just do it myself, and that's how it's been. And I know when I do it, it's always done the way I want it done. But there's sometimes where I sit there and do get a little bit sad, thinking, you know what, I should probably be getting a lot more help than I am. But I just keep going and keep doing it my way.
Well, that's good. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, like you're saying, you're taking control.
Yeah.
You know, and you see it that way. How far do you reckon you would have gone, or could have gone, if you'd have had the backing then?
I feel like I could have gone a lot further than I did with my boxing. I was a lot better fighter than I actually showed. I never really had anybody bringing it out to me to a degree. I was sort of like just setting in like a way really where I could have done with somebody bringing it out to me and pushing me onto that next level, which I never really got. So I do think I could achieve a lot more as a fighter. I mean, I won titles. I mean, the WBF World Title isn't a prestigious title. It's a world title. It was a massive thing for me. It was a massive night at the Nottingham Ice Arena. I'll never forget it. But I do feel like I could have gone on. But I was unlucky as well, really, because in my division, the super featherweight division at the time, you had Michael Gomez. It was a top class fighter. I boxed him for the British title. I had Alex Arthur, who was a top fighter. There was Carl Johansson. I mean, they're the only three I lost to in my last 27 fights. So there was good boys, but I do feel I could have competed a lot better with them if I probably had a bit more backing behind me.
Who would you have liked to have fought?
I don't know really. I mean, like I say, I boxed the best three in my division at the time, and there was the top boys, but I never really had anybody in my mind who wanted to fight. But there was like good boys who I look at now, more nowadays. I look at, I think if I was around nowadays, you know what I mean, if I was boxing now, how different things might have been, because I do feel like the level I was boxing at back in the day was a bit more tougher than what it is now.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the super featherweight division, I mean, it's funny really, because I do manage Sam Bowen, the British super featherweight champion, a title I could never win. And I do think Sam would have been a bit too much for me, but I look at the lads around that area now and that sort of like level, and I do feel that I would have been too good for him,
There's a level of honesty there, isn't it? Yeah, I'd have smashed them, not a problem. Yeah. So, when you look at some of our old pros and that have been out there, I mean, they're all getting on now. Because how old are you now?
43.
43. So when was the last time you had your fight?
My last fight was actually September 2004, so a long time ago.
How did that feel?
I won that, I won my last two fights,
So that's a nice way to go out, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. But who made that decision for you to quit?
Oh, the thing is, you have to have a routine medical every year by the British Boxing Board of Control, and basically have a brain scan every year, an MRI, MRA. And what it was, 2 February 2005. I'd been for my medicals because I had a British title eliminator lined up, and I was just sat on the sofa, and I got a call from the British Box Board of Control, Rob Smith, and he just said, "Look, Carl, you've had a change in your brain scan." But this was the second change I had, because I had a change in 2001, and it took 10 months for me to get my licence back. And then when I got it back, I had a good run, I had some big fights. And then I had another change, and Robert just said, "Look, Carl," he said, "it's quite a significant change." He said, "We don't know whether it's through trauma or age or whatever, or it's just the way your brain is, but you've had quite a different, what it is, you have a left and right side of your brain, and the gap had got bigger." And obviously they measure them, and they put them in the archive, and obviously as they change, they call you in and obviously look into it further. So I just basically thought about it, and I thought, I've had a good career. I'd had 39 pro fights, won 32. I feel like I could have gone on further. I feel like I had a bit more to give, and I probably could have won a British title, because by then the top boys, Gomez, Arthur, had moved on to world level. But I just thought about it, and I thought, by the time I had two little girls, you know what I mean, and I just thought, no, I can't carry on like this. I thought it was getting harder and harder as well, and I just thought, no, I'm going to call it a day. So really it was like my decision, but whether I'd have passed another scan or it'd have took longer, I never really had the time then, and I'd have missed out on a big opportunity. So I just called it a day, really. Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? Yeah. Because when you've been a boxer all that time and you only know that, what was going through your mind? Okay, where do I go now? But what was going through it?
Well, it's funny, really, because this is where the how it comes out, the self-driven person I am again happened. I mean, I just sat there and I thought, what am I going to do now? I was crying, and I was like a bit lost, you know what I mean? I was lost for the first year or whatever. I was lost, but near enough the first thing I did was just think, right, I'm going to become a trainer. So I went and got myself a gym. I had Baz Jordan from Jordan Road Surfacing, who's been a great help for me. He's always sponsored me, so we got a gym together, and I just started training fighters, and then it just snowballed, really. Once people knew I was training fighters, I was getting calls from all over, and then once I got to the stage with training them, I thought, well, I want to start managing fighters now. So I started managing fighters, and then I thought, well, if I'm managing them, they're going to need someone to get them fights. So I started promoting fighters. So it's crazy how it's just snowballed, and I've just gone from strength to strength every year. So
when you're actually in this profession, to do what you've done, yes, we understand that you're a boxer, but like you say, behind the scenes you've got everybody else taking care of that stuff. Yeah. How did you get to know that?
I don't know. I'm just knowledgeable. I mean, I'm just very knowledgeable about boxing, and I've just learned as I've gone along. I've learned the business side of it. I know how the game works. There's a lot of people in boxing who's got licences who hasn't got a clue how the game works, to be fair. And I sometimes have to sit down and explain how this is and how that is. But I do feel like I know the ins and outs. There's nothing in boxing that I don't know. I've been involved in every single level, from area level up to world level. So that's been great, and I've learned as I've gone along, and it's just something that's just snowballed, really.
What about the future for you? What does that hold?
I think as far as promoting goes, I don't think I'll ever be able to get any further, any bigger, unless I've got a TV contract. That's the next stage. You can keep building fighters up, but what happens is you build them up to a certain level with no TV, and then you have to put them onto big promoters because you haven't got the TV, and obviously they're on bigger purses then, and it's just TV money that can cover that. For example, Sam Bowen become a British champion on a non-TV show that I promoted, and then once he won the British title, I couldn't really take him any further. So that's when we sat down with Frank Warren and did a deal with Frank Warren. So now I'm Sam's trainer and manager, but Frank Warren promotes Sam on BT Sport. and that's basically how it goes. And it'd be nice if I could take the fighters further on, but without TV you can't do that, because it's the TV revenue that you need. At the minute I'm promoting shows and paying professional wages, just relying on ticket sales and a little bit of sponsorship. If the tickets don't sell, who's paying the fighters? It all comes out of my pocket. I mean, I've lost money on shows before because shows haven't sold, and I've still gone ahead with the show because I didn't want the fighters to lose out. But then there's been shows where I've absolutely smashed it and sold the places out and made decent money. So it's one of them really. But to get your fights to the next level, you need TV. You can get them so far with no TV as a manager and a promoter. But like I say, without the TV revenue, you can't take them much further.
What's going to happen now? Because I mean, you've got a little gym, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got my gym. I mean, I am finding it difficult because the gym takes a lot of my time up. And I do like promoting, but for example Saturday night at Leicester I did a show, I was promoting this show, I had to bandage 4 lads up, I had to do corners, I had to sort all the money out and that, which was difficult for me. I did really feel it on Saturday, and that's where now I feel like I've got to start getting a little bit more help, and that's probably what I'm going to look at doing now.
Well, before we close, what I want you to do is 2 things. First, just tell us what it was like stepping into the ring for that first pro fight and maybe that first win. Give me that one first. What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the word professional is very daunting. So when you first turn professional, you're a bit apprehensive of what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen, what have you. But I got in there and it was a very tough fight, to be honest. I boxed a guy called Paul Hamilton. He'd had 8, won 4, lost 4. He was a former world Thai boxing champion. It was a tough debut. I sold a lot of tickets. But I'll tell you a little story now, actually. It was at Mansfield Leisure Centre. It was a foggy night in March. I think it was March the 22nd, 1996. And I actually drove there. You're not really allowed to drive to shows when you're boxing, but I drove there because I didn't really know the rules and that back then. And I had an XR3i car. Anyway, I boxed. It was a tough fight. I knocked him down in the last round to get the decision, otherwise it would have been a draw. And I got out. I got showered and what have you. Got out the venue. Well, thanked everyone and what have you. Goes to get in the car. Gets in the car park, and my car had gone. An XR3i had gone. And at the time they was like the boy racer cars, you know what I mean? And I had this pink relay that used to, like, you put it in, God, you're talking some years ago, and basically when you took it out it cut the fuel consumption off so no one could pinch it so you fall. So I goes to get in the car and it's not there. So I runs back into the venue, I says to the manager, I said, John, I said, my car's been pinched. He went, behave. I said, honestly, he said, you've took too many shots, son. Go and have a look for it. I said, honestly, John, it's not there. So he gets out, he'd gone. So anyway, gets a lift home and rings the police, tells them the car had gone and that. Anyway, the next morning they found the car at Ardby Court, Chesterfield. So I gets there, gets my missus to take me there. And my car's there on bricks. My wheels had gone, it'd all been stripped. Funniest story ever. So I earned, I don't know if I earned about 500 quid from that fight, I think it was. Back then, I mean, that's the sort of like money I was earning for my first ever pro fight. So I basically, what I earned out of my fight, I had to go and buy some new wheels, you know what I mean? But just stories really like that just make you laugh, and that just shows you the sort of look that I had really, you know what I mean? I've never really had much luck, I've had to do it all myself. And that was one little story, yeah.
So, skip forward to the last fight. Now, stepping into that ring for the very last time. Again, give us it. Tell us how you felt.
Yeah, well, obviously, I didn't really know what. And that was another one before my last fight. I used to be based out in Gibraltar. I went out there as a guest at a show in Gibraltar. My friend out there, Steve Noble, was from Collingham. He was working out there. He'd set a business up, Top Gem, and he basically went out there and transformed Gibraltar. And he become good friends with Ernest Victory, who was the trainer out there. and there was a local amateur show in Gibraltar, and he invited me out there as a guest. I just won my first bout at the British Masters in 1999, and he took me out there, and I trained out there and what have you. And what they did was they not really had no professional boxing out there ever, and they put a pro show on for me there, and I've become the first ever person to box professionally in Gibraltar. So that was another big achievement. And then it was the fight after that that turned out my last fight. Luckily it was at Newark at the Grove Sports Centre. I boxed a kid called Daniel Thorpe, a tough journeyman. Basically I was just rebuilding from when I lost my world title. And then so I boxed him, and I boxed quite well. I got strong as a fight weight on. I won on points, but he were lucky to see the final battle. I think if it had been any longer I would have stopped him, but that turned out my last fight, yeah. But great feeling. It was always a great buzz to box in my hometown because I sold a lot of tickets.
Now we've come to the end of that journey, and like you say, now you're promoting, you're doing all this other stuff. If a young kid came to you and said, I want to be a boxer,
yeah,
what would your advice be to him?
You know what, boxing's been a great life for me. I've got nothing but good things to say about boxing, but I have suffered as well in the fact that I've missed out on a lot of things, and especially now it's like I'm constantly working, and I feel like if I have got a few quid to go out and enjoy myself, I can never do it because it's always, I'm from one job to another job to another job. It's like fight after fight, show after show, so I find it very difficult to switch off, and it does affect my personal life, to be honest. But as far as it's kept me off the streets, it's made me the person I am today. It's been a good life for me. I've earned a good living, but obviously I've had to work for it. It has got loads of high points, but it is a really risky. I mean, I've been involved in a couple of deaths as well. I've been, as a trainer, I've had my fighters involved in a couple of tragedies, boxing fighters. So, I mean, I've seen that side of it as well, which is really sad. I mean, it really does. You think to yourself, these poor lads are getting in that ring and putting their lives at risk, really. People don't understand. You get negative people from outside just sit there watching, slagging boxers, oh, do this, do that. But it's a true story. Until you've been in that ring, you cannot explain what it feels like. I mean, half these people who sit there slagging boxing and that, they'd have an heart attack just stepping up to the ring, you know what I mean? And that is the truth. And I have seen some bad things happen in boxing. Like you say, I've seen I've been at the rock bottom, and I've been at the top, and I've had my ups and downs. But I don't really. I mean, I've got a little boy. I wouldn't want him to box, to be honest. Like you say, it has gave me a good life, but I've made sacrifices and I've missed out on a lot of things as well. And even now, I'm working 24/7, and it's took over my life, to be honest. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, if a person wants to do it, I'd be behind them, but I wouldn't ever push anybody into being a boxer.
One last thing. The biggest thing for me nowadays is you're always hearing about this mental health, yeah. When you were at the top of the game, you were there, you were loving it. Now, when you finish,
Yeah.
your whole life is turned upside down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah? And then it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to be doing? How does that affect you mentally?
Really bad. You got to remember, I mean, listen, I wasn't at the top of the game. I was a good fighter, a good honest pro, and I've had some really highs, and I do feel like some of these people that have got mental health issues and that have been at the top of the game, I can understand where they're coming from, because one minute you've been in the limelight, you're top of the world, next minute you're a nobody just walking around the streets, and it can affect some people. I mean, I do feel that when I first retired from fighting, I had a bit of depression. I never really talked to anybody about it, but I was doing strange things, just like, I don't know, like staying out, just going all over the place and driving about and just thinking all the time. And I was quite low, but I picked myself up, and staying in the game has helped me. But the first year was really tough for me, and I do understand where this mental depression does come from. Yeah.
Well, we're going to wrap it there. I'd like to say thank you very much
Thank you
for turning up. You've been an absolute star to us. A champion. That's what you've been. You've been a world-class champion.
Thanks,
now, that's it. That's our first ever podcast, vlog, whatever you want to call it. And we've had the great Carl Greaves, yeah, ex-boxer. By the way, he still owes me 26 quid.
Yeah.